Hey, podcast friends. Thanks for listening and watching the video of the Recovery Atheist podcast. Today's topic is an interview with Kate McNeil from Down Under.
Howdy.
Howdy, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Here we
All
are.
right.
Are we on live?
Fine.
Or yeah, we're recording.
Well, I was just going to say we finally got this set up. I didn't know for sure if we are going to have the right time or not.
Yeah, luckily it worked out this the right way round. So I just had to wait an hour. I didn't turn up an hour late, which is good.
So how's it going down in Australia today?
Yeah, it's pretty relaxed here. When I look at the world news, I'm pretty grateful actually being here. It's friggin' crazy shit going on, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately for my country, it's a lot of unrest going on. I'm just glad that we got somebody in there who's not trying to poke it like a badger, you know.
Yeah.
We need a break.
Yeah. Well, I've got to say, on behalf of us Aussies, I don't think we've ever taken that much interest in different states in America before and watched Florida and, watched those states as closely as if they were, as if those decisions were going to, directly affect us, because they do directly affect us.
Yeah. We're now, now that Biden's going to be in there, we'll be more involved with what's going on in Europe. We'll be more involved in what's going on overseas and in Australia, and be more of a part of that rather than Trump's policies of keeping you guys away because we're all afraid of you and, you're all listening to us and this and that. And it's just like, come on, we need to work together here.
Yeah.
So,
well, congratulations then. I'll send you congratulations.
Well, if you know where I'm from, Minnesota, from where I'm from, we went blue. We always go blue. So it was good. It was good to see though other states, especially like Georgia, a southern Bible Belt state that normally goes red for the majority of the time. It was very nice to see some people finally stand up and say, don't matter what our religious preference is, we need to change. So that was good. Well, you are my first person I get to interview that's from overseas. I am really pumped and excited about that. I can hear the accent already. I've always had a love for the Aussie accent. That and New Zealand's, even though I know New Zealand is a little bit different with the dialect and everything, but I don't know what it is about the accent. I love it. So pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'll get started in and do my intro for the podcast. It looks to me when I look at locations, you've probably listened to a couple of my podcasts. So
I listened to the Pride and Ego. Yeah. And the third step, what your step.
Yeah, I can be a little confrontational. I don't believe in coddling. I believe in saying the truth and how I feel about it. But with these interviews, I try to keep more of an impartial look on things. That's why I'm looking to interview people from all different avenues of life. But when it comes to AA and the program that I'm a part of and things of that nature, I do get a little opinionated. So I think that causes interest. All right. So obviously what we're going to do is we're going to do your story of strength and hope and where you come from, whatever avenue that is. I'll go ahead and get started, do the little intro part of it, introduce you, and then I'll just say I'm turning it over to you and we'll just let you go from there. Sound good?
Yeah, but is there any theme or particular things you want me to focus on? Or is this like a traditional experience, strength and hope share?
Well, yeah, you can do it that way if you'd like. If you want to add different little things in there, you can. I guess the theme I'm trying to get across, if you want to do it, is that whatever results of recovery you're trying to do, or whatever results that you're trying to do in your life, whether you're in recovery or not, that's trying to better yourself and better others and have a better life, what avenues that you've done to get there, and that we all, if you know, even with differences, we can have similarities and work together on achieving that. That's pretty much what I'm trying to bring across, is to realize we need to stop fighting and just realize we have the same issues going on.
Okay. Talking about within, what do you mean fighting? Who's fighting who?
Well, I guess if you want to break it down, is whether it be, you know, you've got many different beliefs that are out there. You know, I've got friends of mine who are Buddhist. I've got friends of mine who are Hindu. I've got friends of mine who are, you know, Muslims. I've got friends who are Jews, friends who are religious, you know, more of the religious right, conservative. And then there are friends like me that are more secular, more of the humanistic point of view. Or like even me with the atheistic point of view, and realize that, I guess for me, I want other people to know that with recovery, it doesn't really matter where you're coming from. We all deserve to have recovery. We all deserve to work together, because we all have a lot of similar stories. And we might come from a different area, but a lot of the stories are similar. And I guess the biggest thing is just, you know, mainly I started the podcast, and I've kind of gone in different avenues now with it and branched out, but I mainly got into the podcast to be able to have an avenue for guys and women like me that were going to AA and being an atheist. They had to hear the God concept over and over and over and over again, that they were losing touch with the program, and then going back out and using because they felt like I have no chance with this anyway, because I don't believe in a God. So I wanted to touch base with them and realize and let them know that you're not alone. I've felt the same way, been in and out of AA for 18 years, and I've always felt the same way and gone back out and used. And now, because I'm taking a different way of an approach to the 12 steps, I've realized I can be freed from being an alcoholic, even without a God concept being there. So I want them to be able to know they have an avenue of recovery. Don't let the old timer beat you to a bloody pulp saying you're never going to get it just because you don't believe in God. So that's kind of where I've gone with it, but I like to touch on everything. My main focus was to just bring out the, like if I've had people on with me that have been more of a religious faith or have more spirituality, it's like just bring out both sides of it, and let the person who's listening decide for themselves whether or not which one they want to believe with, or which one they seem logical to them that they want to go in that direction. Give them options.
Yeah. All right. And do you want me to start on the substance addiction stuff, or because
it can be, it can be anything. I have sex addiction. I have spending addiction that I have to keep under control. Video game addiction I have to keep. I mean, there's tons.
It just keeps going. They just like expand. Yeah.
It's all about the addictive personality. You know,
the bitch and all that. Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, I'm gonna get her started. Let me get the intro going, and we will do this. All right.
Go.
Well, hello, everybody out there in Podcast Nation. This is the Recovery Atheist coming to you. I'm actually coming to you from Zoom via overseas. My first ever overseas interview. I'm excited about that. I'm getting about 40% of my audience is coming from overseas in Europe, and I have my first audience member who's coming out of Australia today, and I decided, and we talked about it, that we would like to do an interview, and I wanted to hear her story. So it's Kate McNeil, is that correct?
That's it.
All right, wonderful. And so what she's going to do is tell a little bit of her story, and we're going to have a little discussion about it, and just kind of see what direction we go. I want to thank everybody for joining us and listening in. So right now, you're in recovery, is that correct, Kate?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start with the first question. It's always the first question that comes out is, how long have you been sober?
Okay. All right. So it's going to be, I got into the rooms 1997. And so, yeah, and I was in my early 20s. And yeah, I've been in recovery. I've been in 12 steps since then. Haven't been sober the whole time, but I have been pretty much most of the time. So I don't so much count years up like I used to, but I do. I started in Narcotics Anonymous, and I did. Then I had a time in Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, Debtors Anonymous, Under Earners. Where else have I been? Almost all of them I've had a go in. Yeah, I'm very curious. I'm fellowship curious. So I will see, I'll follow my nose and I'll take what I want and leave the rest. Yeah.
So in other words, it sounds to me like you have a lot of vast experience when it comes to recovery groups and the fellowship and doing all that. So that's good. I love that. I have plenty of it as well. NA, AA, Smart Recovery. I mean, there's so many different recovery groups I've been a part of. So why don't we go ahead and we'll just kind of give us an idea of where you came from, where you're at now, I guess, what brought you to the point you're at now, and just kind of what you're moving toward in the future for yourself and where you see yourself going with everything.
Sure. I started using primarily marijuana. That was call that my drug of choice. So I did pretty much every other thing that was available in the 90s to do. And particularly pills and sedatives. So I was always liked to be a bit more sedate than usual. I felt too much. I was too sensitive to the world. Anything that sort of took that edge off was definitely very attractive. So yeah, I actually surprised I did get through school. I used to wag constantly. I was a goth at the time, so I also had black hair, and this predates emos for anybody that doesn't know what goths were, but think of The Cure and
Yeah, definitely. So I was there with you.
yeah. Sisters of Mercy. And so that was part of that real struggle to find my voice and make sense of the world, and to find any sort of group or people that didn't make me feel like I was a complete freak. So, dressing like a freak seemed to be an obvious thing to do. And I ended up, so I mean, mine was very, I guess in terms of step 9, for people that know the steps, it didn't create a lot of carnage. So in some ways, my depressive, morbid version of drug addiction was good in that way, because I just imploded into myself, and I was just self-destructing quietly over time. And but I guess what really freaked me out, which was part of my education from Sydney. I grew up on the sort of north side, which is conservative, what we call liberal conservative Sydney. And if you didn't have a degree, if you didn't have a job, you pretty much should just go and neck yourself. If you didn't, like, it was that kind of standard where you just had to look like you were successful. And I was just like, I was, born with that silver spoon, some might say. No, I mean, but not we were particularly wealthy, but I had a lot of that opportunity. But I just sought the other side. Like, I just ran to the other side as fast as I could to find out how the other half lived, which is a bit nuts, but I can really understand why, because I just felt so wrong there in that environment. And I won't go into the full graphic details, but it did involve living on the streets. It did involve a little bit of criminal activity. It did involve things that really a young girl in my position shouldn't have been seen or done. I landed in the rooms. I actually was going out with a guy that ended up in rehab. I never knew about rehabs at all. It was the first exposure to detox or I didn't even know that existed. So the people I'd hung out with, it was never a thing about using. We just knew we were using, and there was no other question about it. This was the way to live. We discovered it. Good on us. Yeah, but when I started to really fail uni, I was having to quit uni, and I was also working in doing things that I knew I couldn't keep doing. My body, I was getting sick, and everyone's got a version of a story like this. So ended up in a detox and didn't stay clean from then, but took about 6-9 months, I think, to actually really have that compulsion and the questioning removed about whether I should try again or whether I was just like, okay, let's just let it go for a while and see how we go. So so that was like 20, you kind of forget the counting, but I did very, very committed to Narcotics Anonymous for about 13, 14 years. So I was the diligent 3-4 times a week, service positions. But I did get disheartened, and that's why I'm really interested in your message, Del, because the God thing started to annoy me in later sobriety. Early sobriety, someone said, your God can be the chair of a chair, and you'd be just like, oh, okay, doesn't matter. It's outside of me. It probably knows more about my life than I do. I'm fine. This chair can be my higher power. That was fine. I accepted that kind of light, just, I don't know what you call it. It was just like, I'm wrong, so everything else must be right. That's sort of what ended up playing on me. And that's what I can hear in your, in what I've heard from you. Like, I needed to question that now. I got to a position where that wasn't going to cut it anymore. And I felt when people referred to God, I started to feel like they were just palming me off. Well, put it in the God box as if that was some magical unicorn fairy solution and they could just get rid of me, or that was
right.
My to put that out if I didn't have a God box like theirs.
Yeah. So no, I completely get that. It was the same way for me. It's like I really struggle with the idea of we're giving all this. I mean, you listened to my Pride and Ego episode, and I talked about it in that, about how it's okay to have pride in yourself and that you're making these choices and you're putting the work in. Why do we have to give credit for everything that happens to us to God? And I really struggle with that because I think some people use it as an answer for everything. It's a blanket statement for everything. And it's a way of making them feel okay about whatever situation they're in, instead of just looking at reality and realizing this is the way it is. And we as a person have to make some real decisions on what happens with this. And we can't just sit back and let God decide for us what that's going to be. So I completely get you on that. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of, old timers that I know that have been around and stayed around, and it's almost like they become part of the furniture. So they sort of develop their own culture within the fellowships. And this is my experience of it. It's like we get absolutely, pummeled sometimes when things don't work out, but we've got this, sobriety 10, 15, 20 years thing. So it's like we want to get comfort that means something. And if you just stay clean, you're a success. But I don't think deep down that's satisfying. I don't think it gets to the point where you've got to look further and dig deeper and and really ask some different questions. And I think that sort of leads to a bit of an apathy in the community about the continual process of what happens when you kind of go through those stages later on, and it's not about the drugs anymore, but you don't really know what you should be doing.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, if you, my way of looking at it is, if you do not have goals in sobriety that you're working toward and keeping yourself motivated, and it's just all about staying in recovery and being sober, that pink cloud is going to wear off and you're going to get bored within your recovery. The biggest thing I like to tell people who are around me, and I live in a sober living home right now, and so I have other guys that are around me asking me for, advice and things of that nature. And what I've realized through my experience is that if I just do everything in my life around recovery, I don't make it. You've got to have other things outside of just recovery that is going to keep you motivated in the life you have. So you have to have other things that you enjoy. You have to have other things you're trying to strive for and trying to attain. You can't just say, yeah, I'm sober, so yeah, my life is good. Well, what are you doing now that you're in recovery? What are you trying to do to grow and trying to gain in your life now that you have that sobriety?
Yeah. And that you can get a bit, that's where I can hear the material stuff, like, because particularly the people that do get the 2.5 kids and the nice house and the good job, and it's like that becomes the performance thing, right? Oh, if I'll be like them. But either they get that and they're miserable, or they get that and that's they're happy, but that's kind of it. And that's fine. And maybe I'm jealous of them, to be honest. Sometimes I think that didn't happen for me. I didn't get the package of goodies, you know, where are my cash and prizes?
Well, again, with that, you're absolutely right. Again, with that, sure, I like my possessions. I like to be able to buy things that I want to buy and enjoy it, and my toys. I get that, but at the same time, how much of it, if you're spending everything you have in just in material things and not doing other things to better yourself, how much of it is that you're just feeling the void that was there from you now being sober from your drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever it is, that you're just trying to fill it up, and it's that temporary feeling of excitement and happiness, but eventually that will fade. And so it again comes back down to that eternalizing. What are you doing inside? And for yourself, you know, I don't like using the word spiritual very often because I really struggle with that concept about it. But at the same time, I get where people are going with it. Is just, I want to make sure that I'm just not buying things for myself. How am I helping my fellow person that I'm around? How am I as a humanist, as a secular humanist, how am I using what I have in being empathetic and helping others and being there to provide good in the world outside of just what I can attain, you know, financially. So no, that's very good points. Very good points.
Yeah, and I guess another part of my story was getting very physically sick and then not really having, not being able to contemplate that was going to happen. Obviously, not no one really can when you're in those situations often, but that at the time it presented, I had a lot of risk around codeine use. I had fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue related symptoms. I did not know if I was in pain or if I was making it up that I was in pain, because I had that cycle going of, if I get into pain, then I get to take something for it. So I was putting myself in pain all the time so that I could have the pain relief. And that was a really period. It lasted about 4 or 5 years. And it was one of the hardest periods with recovery, 12 steps, because I could not make sense of what I was supposed to do and who to turn to, and no one was helping. Like, I had tried all the therapists, bad sponsors, that sort of run where you just sort of don't get the help and you kind of go, God, am I missing something? And just getting that sense of, you know, if you look back now, it's nice to look back now, and that's why I like talking in forums like this, because I like to say to people that might be in that position, you do have to learn the hard way with this sometimes, and your view of God or spirituality changes, and that's okay, and you got to change with it. Like, it's not a set forget, I've got the God now, we're all good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that way. I think that once people get comfortable in their recovery and setup and what they're, and it's not just recovery, it's life in general. I feel they get in a comfortable position and then they're just like, okay, I've got it now, I'm good. And I don't know, for me, I'm turning 45 in January. For me, I just want to be able to, as I get older, continually learn and continually grow and continue to know more about me and about life and about the world and other people and cultures and I mean, everything. And I don't want to be that one where I get to my deathbed at the end and be like, have all these regrets because I didn't do this or didn't do that when I wanted to do it. because I got too comfortable. You know, and so I like it when I like it a little bit when I get a little uncomfortable, because that's when I decide to make change, is when I'm uncomfortable. You don't make it when you're comfortable. You only do it when you're uncomfortable. And so I like getting uncomfortable every once in a while.
Yeah, that's one thing I wish wasn't true, but it does seem to be true. Yeah, and I heard you follow Russell Brand a bit too. He's you know, it's an interesting take on the 12 steps, and I definitely appreciate his the way, his openness about just what life is like, and just that, you know, inclusive.
Yeah, it was I got to speak with him for like 10 minutes. He did a Zoom thing for like 500 people, something like that. I paid to be in it. And I just threw a question out there about, well, could you talk to, you know, the question was what do you say to people who are in recovery that really struggle with the God concept? And it really caught his interest, because the minute he saw it, he was like, Del, I want to finish this question, and then I want to come to you next, because that's a really good question. So I got to sit there and talk with him for 10 minutes. It was like, it made my year in this year of horrible things that have happened. But getting to talk to him and have him talk to me directly and be able to have a conversation with him about it, it was just like, you know, for me, it made me feel like, okay, here's a guy who could be looked at as a celebrity, could really be condescending toward people like some of them are, and he is just a down-to-earth guy who knows what recovery is. I've read all of his books. I love his idea of the 12 steps, because I mean, even though himself, he's a spiritual person and a spiritual one with the universe type of person, his steps don't have anything in there about God. It's pretty much, you know, are you fucked? Do you believe that you can unfuck yourself without help? No, I can't. So makes it really easy for me to understand what he's trying to get. So no, I love Russell, and I'll be a fan of his for life. He's done a great work for people in recoveries, especially in the UK, up there, getting the parliament and them to understand what addiction really is like, and how they can help.
I find having mentors, even if I don't know them or ever speak to them, or teachers, people that I really, you know, that are vocal and speak really well and articulate this stuff, I could almost say that they would be my higher power sometimes. On a given day, that I could just say, yep, that's today. I can even, like Jordan Peterson, even though I don't agree with everything, I can definitely take some amazing stuff from him. There's so much going on, particularly in this, since COVID. I've actually noticed the global community, like the sort of way we're coming together. Like, because we do online Zoom 12-step meetings here now. We get the States, we get ones from London, from, you know, all sorts of countries. So that is just like a new, fresh energy for me around what recovery looks like and feels like, and our similarities, and how we can help.
Well, I look at it even with like you and me having this interview today. How I don't know if the COVID thing would be as big as what it is if you and I would be talking. Who knows? It's one of those things where definitely because of COVID, it seems like the world has gotten smaller because we're all going through the same thing. And we have the 12-step meetings here as well through Zoom. We have finally gotten some of them reopened where you can go, but of course, heavily masked and social distancing. But when you look at our country compared to the other countries, I mean, right now we're averaging 120,000 testing positive every day. They're saying by the end of the week, it could be up to 200,000. People are just dying left and right here. It's out of control because we can't seem here in this country to come to the agreement of we need to wear masks. We need to social distance because our president has been just saying that he doesn't believe the scientists. He doesn't believe Dr. Fauci. He doesn't believe, that wearing a mask is going to do anything to help. And it's just, the ignorance is just amazing. With it now, though, it's like I've ran into so many people now that I've become friends with just over having the same way of thinking about COVID. Just, you know, what we got to do to get through this and stay alive and stay protected.
Yeah, I don't think in Australia we have anywhere near what you guys have experienced. Melbourne, Victoria, one of our states here, has definitely been the hardest hit, and to some extent just unlucky in how it's all the transmission. We had a very short in reflection, a short period of the full stage lockdowns. It's called stage 4, I think. So that was about 6 weeks by memory. So, and then we got gradually opened up. And now we're in summer. Now we're coming into summer. We're actually in that lower risk where you guys are going into the winter season, which is generally high risk with flus, etc. So partly that's just got to get you guys through that next few months to get to the other side of this.
Yeah, and you know, with they're talking about vaccines, but I don't know if I can trust it right away, or if it's going to have the right effect right away. I'm really, you know, we got like 75 days before Biden finally gets into office, and I just, you know, when it comes to the country here and the healing that needs to happen, it's got to happen with the president we decided to vote in here, which I am very proud of my country for coming through and saying enough's enough, and seeing the dancing in the streets when Biden was finally called. And I mean, this is a true monumental. This will, and at least in our history, this will go down as a historical day that will be remembered, hopefully as a turning point in our country, and getting back to more of the ways of the progressive way of thinking. I'm so sick of the conservative way. We need to get back. This is not a Christian nation. This is a secular nation, and it's growing by leaps and bounds that way every single year. That we need to make sure that, you know, we're working with everybody, no matter where you're coming from, whatever your beliefs, religion, things of that nature. Immigrants that are coming in, come on, they have the right to come in if they want to, just like I have the right. If I, you know, right now I can't with COVID, but if I wanted to go to Australia and eventually get since, you know, be a citizen there, I could. And it's just one of those things where let's work together as people instead of always being divided.
Yeah. And have you found that, because America, one thing that's quite different is, I don't think in Australia, partly because we're naive and a bit like spoiled, because we haven't really had wars and we're kind of a little bit in our own world, partly because of distance too, but we don't have that sort of intense rivalry around political opinions in the street. We do have, you know, our own strand of racism. We do have definitely got our problems. The way we've treated our Indigenous people is just abominable. But we don't have that sort of escalation of it's almost like the passion around, for example, the political position. We don't have the same sense of incitement to violence on that scale, I think. So, and I guess because we've got this, you know, context here talking about recovery and the importance of staying clean, sober, free, whatever that looks like for you, and you know, whatever addiction, your relationship with addiction is. But I think it's tradition 10 that talks about not having outside opinions and making sure recovery can be the focus of the inside the rooms, and when people talk, that's the common, you know, like tradition 1's about unity. Do you find those traditions helpful in times like this, in applying it to, you know, both inside in your own recovery and what you see, how the community's changing? Well,
we are more vocal, definitely, when it comes to politics in this country. I mean, it used to be...
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah, it used to be taboo to ask someone about their politics back in the day, like when I was growing up. But nowadays, it's like everyone carries it around on their shoulder, on their sleeve.
Yeah.
And you better not try to knock that chip off that shoulder, or I'm going to tell you, you know, where to stick it. So yeah, no, I guess the biggest reason why, and I don't know if this is the difference or not, is that in this country, one of the biggest things that is looked at as prime real estate or something that you want to get is power. And when it comes to power in this country, it's all about who can win at the politics level, because politics, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, each side has their own agenda of trying to get past whatever it is. And the thing is in this country, those things can get passed rather quickly if they have the right people able to vote it. So, you know, we're dealing with the Supreme Court right now. Now with Amy Barrett being in there, who's another Republican judge that Trump put in there. It's a 6-3 Republican to Democratic vote. Well, she's totally against pro-choice, totally against gay rights, totally against gay marriage, totally against, I mean, when you go down the line, she is hardcore conservative, and that's just not what we need in this country. It's going to turn it into war on the streets. You can't just start dictating to people how they should live in a free country. And that's the problem with Trump, is he comes across as an authoritarian, almost dictator fascist way, with the way he says this is the way it's going to be, and then that's it. Even to the point of the election of saying, I'm not leaving, you're going to have to pull me out of here. I'm not leaving peacefully. This is all fraud. They're pulling out all these lies that he's saying that have been debunked over and over and over again, that they're not false ballots, they're not, none of that. Yet he thinks he has the right to do that. You do a great impersonation,
by the way.
I've been practicing. It's all wrong.
Yeah.
It's just
it's got a lot of material.
Yeah, I love it. That's the one thing I am gonna miss with him being gone, is he gave me great material to talk about. So yeah, I'm gonna miss that, but you know, he ain't going anywhere. Even when he is finally ousted, he's still going to have an impact on the Republican Party, and wants to make a run again in 2024. So he isn't going anywhere. I don't think he'll have a chance in 2024 if he tries. But at the same time, it also depends on what Biden does, you know, in these 4 years. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So how's life now for you in recovery? Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Okay. I was just going to say, you're in we call them halfway houses or or 3/4 way houses. They're like when you live in a quarter. Is that what you mentioned it? You had a different name for it.
So we used to call them halfway houses. And then the funding got changed to where they renamed it. So we still have the things like the quarter houses and the halfway houses, but they are more dealing with people who are coming out of like prisons, who are incarcerated now for those. So now sober living house is the same as a 3/4 house. So what it is you come in, you usually got about 3 months of sobriety. You've been in treatment, especially in Minnesota. You do long-term treatment here up to 90 days if you want. And then from there, you go into sober living. Usually they want at least 3 months from you, but usually you make a commitment between 6 months and a year. I made a year commitment. And you're sitting here getting yourself back on track, saving money. You're doing outpatient treatment while you're in the house for the first 3 months. After that, the outpatient pays all the rent for you to be here. And then after that, you've started to work and you're banking money to the side, and you start paying rent at the house and start getting back to what it's like to live in real life sober. I made the commitment to the year. I've been here 7 months now. I'm going to be moving into a new home that the house owner bought, and I will be house managing there now. So moving up the ladder a little bit, I get to give back to people coming into the program and being able to be of help to them, which is very good for me. I enjoy doing that. I used to be a drug counselor back in the day. So It'll be nice to be able to get back into that. But yeah, it's pretty much where these guys stay for up to a year, some longer, and then are able to transition back, to their families or back out, on their own, back out in real life. Pretty much what we want to do is give them as much sober time underneath their belt as possible to give them the best chance for success when they finally get out of here. Obviously, it's better to get out of a place like this with a year sobriety than trying to throw you back out in the real world at 30 days. So.
Yeah. Brings back memories. Hearing it's sort of a global language, that language now, isn't it? Like living the idea of you can't just stop using drugs and then just go and get a job and everything's fine, that there's this path back to the real world or whatever you call it.
Well, yeah, and that's what I try to tell guys here in the house, is that you cannot do this overnight. It's like, how many years did I spend out there destroying and setting things on fire in my life, and then expecting one day I'm going to get all that back? Yeah. No, it takes work, and it takes patience and acceptance. You've got to clean up your side of the street. You got to make some amends. You got to fix some things that you messed up. And then gradually, as time goes on, it gets better and better and better, and it becomes where your life is being put back together again. But yeah, I mean, for the last 6 years, I've been in and out of sober living houses. I mean, I maybe have 3 months that I've lived on my own and never could do it because I always got out on my own too soon. So this time around, it's like the obsession is gone. I don't wake up with the idea or go to bed after a bad day going, man, I wish I could have a drink today. I don't have those thoughts. It's I've got coping skills now to deal with it, and I feel free from it. Now, if I had the whole God concept going on, that's the biggest thing with the God concept, is I have a real hard time with forgiving myself for a lot of stuff that I've done. And so I was raised in a home with 2 ministers. My mom and dad are both ministers in a Pentecostal church. And so I was raised in a shame-based home. And so you make mistakes, it's like the worst thing in the world. You're sinning. And now that I don't have that God complex anymore, it's like, I'm okay if I make a mistake. Del, you're human. It's okay. You can get through that and just do better next time and not let it happen again. And it's amazing how freeing that is to feel that way.
Oh yeah. And I mean, you started to ask me about my life now, and one of the areas I've liked exploring is and benefited from is understanding that I can't really whatever the God thing is very much tainted by the parents, family, how we grew up. And even though I didn't grow up with a lot of religion, I grew up with authoritarianism. So I grew up with, the threat of violence if I said the wrong thing. So I grew up with having my will broken because the parents knew best and children should be seen and not heard. Like that was the worst, part of that sense of if I surrender and if I give my will over, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea. So some of those terms I've had to kind of, I think I heard something about you actually making up your own steps prayer because then it feels right. And then then you can use it and you feel free and you feel like you can actually be like, okay, I get, this is how it works for me. And that's really empowering.
Yeah, I mean, with my sponsor, right off the bat, he knew the situation. I gave him the lowdown on it right from the get-go, this is what I'm needing. And he's like, well, let's not put any expectations on this. Let's just go into it and we'll adjust it and see how it goes. And he left it open for me, which was amazing. I'd never had a sponsor do that for me. So I went into it and we got to the 3rd step prayer. I rewrote it. Got to the 7th step prayer. I rewrote it according to what I wanted it to be.
You can do it. Yeah.
More power to me is what I said.
Yeah. And I mean, I had a few years ago, I was just raging at God. Like I was still referring to God, but I was furious. I was absolutely like, I just had to go, you have fucked up in a major way if you exist. And it was almost like I had to bring God, like God doesn't, the knowing everything thing, like you, and I actually, like there's an academic, his name's Sam Backman, and he talks about, he's one of those genius children and also a narcissist by full definition, NPD. And, but he's got some brilliant material on philosophy and how God, the history in Christianity is that Lucifer is part of God. And when I found that out, I was just like relieved, because I actually felt, why does God, like God makes mistakes. Like there's things that happen that are not above everything else. And don't want to get too intellectual here, but I spent months reading about that to try and understand. Yeah, that Lucifer was the fallen angel. And for me, like, for example, and I know it's not your thing, but I've gone through there's a goddess in Hindu called Kali, that's the destroyer, and she's so godlike, and she destroys friggin' everything that's not real. And for me, that was like, I get that, I fully get that. So I borrowed from that for a while, and I used to really get it, and then I just move on. In some way, I'm a bit of a dilettante. I'll just be like dabble in other people's philosophies and put it in my toolbox. But that's definitely worked for me.
Well, when you look at the Bible and the conservatives, you said about, God making mistakes. To them, they always say God, his plan is perfect and his word is perfect and everything like that. And I'm like, really? So it was his design plan for this little girl to be raped and killed. That was his plan. Really? That's okay in your book. Okay. No, not in my book. These are the things that really, grind my gears. I have a few episodes I call that, where I just talk about things that really upset me. But no, that, and then just the whole idea, like the word Satan in Latin just means adversary. So when it comes down to it, I can look at lots of things in my life that have been an adversary. I would say alcohol then would be Satan to me. It is an adversary to me. Doesn't to me have to have a spiritual connotation to understand what it's doing, or have to fear it. I don't have to fear it. I don't have to pray to something to understand it. I don't have to have it to understand what my morality is or what my morals are. I don't, and so when I was able to clean that clutter out, like you said, being raised with, and even today, there's times I catch myself going, no, that's wrong. That's what your parents taught you growing up. It's a wrong perspective. You have your own perspective now, and I'm having to change it. But once I've freed up all that clutter, it's like the view of what I need to do becomes crystal clear. It becomes, I don't have all the answers, but definitely I see the picture a lot clearer today for what I need to do to help myself stay sober and just have a happy life. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. They want to overthink a lot of things. They want to overthink recovery. They want to overthink the 4th step. They want to overthink, and it's more of just simplifying it to what the 12 steps are saying, and don't dwell on the things that, as people, we're so complex, we want to dwell on. Instead, how about we just keep moving forward? You don't agree with the God concept? Fine. We'll figure out a different way and we'll move forward. The 4th step, you have a hard time talking with somebody who you don't really know that well, but yet you need to get the 4th step done. Well, write out what you can write out that you're comfortable with, and at least get the ball rolling. And get some freedom from that, so you can move on and gradually start cleaning up your side of the street. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess I look at it as we overcomplicate things in life. I know I do at times. And I just think that if we simplify just a little bit more with some of the stuff, we would realize that the fear because we live in a world that there's so much fear. It's in our media, it's in the social media, it's everywhere. That if we were able to do that, the fear would not be so suffocating, and we'd be able to actually enjoy each moment that we're alive.
Yeah. And you're talking about, alcohol being the Satan. It's reminds me of the AA, the old timers that wrote about the allergy, and that was really I think a good way of describing it for people too, because it's the allergic reaction. So the way if I have a drink, I don't react the same way as you. And it's just like a peanut allergy or anything. It's just got, the consequences are really potentially fatal. So this is not really worth it. And that keeps it very, very simple. So sometimes keeping it at that physical, like, yep, this is just what happens if I do this.
Well, and that's what I like about SMART.
Yeah.
Will equals C, right? Yeah, well, that's what I like about SMART recovery is they keep it more science-based instead of the spiritual part of it. But you talk about it being an allergy. If you are allergic to shellfish or you're allergic to bee stings, I also describe it this way. If you went 10 years without getting stung by a bee, does that mean that after 10 years, if you got stung by a bee today, you'd be cured because it's been 10 years? Well, no, you would still have the same allergy reaction to it, and be allergic to that bee. And it's the same way for alcohol for me. If I go 10 years without drinking, it doesn't mean I'm going to go and be able to pick up that drink, that whiskey or vodka, and be able to drink it and think it's not going to have the same effect. I've done it. Where I've had longer terms of sobriety and thought, I've got it under control now. I know how to deal with it now, and go back. And it's usually not very long before it's as bad, if not worse, than what it was when I stopped. So getting your mind wrapped around that, of the allergy, of the adversary to it, that all it's doing is bringing you down. Oh, that's a big step.
Yeah. Well, these days my Satan can be chocolate, but by no means quite as serious. But still, sugar is sort of my current. There's always one just sort of hiding in the wings there, kind of. So getting through the day.
That's kind of a. I was just gonna say that's kind of a. I was just gonna say that's kind of a normal thing. Your coffee, your cigarettes, and your chocolate. Then a little sex on the side, just to throw that in the mix too. Typical addict behavior.
Bob Earl, have you ever heard the tapes? His speaker tapes. He died a few years ago in his late 80s. He was one of the early guys in AA, but he was really vocal about. He was sort of a bit of a character within the fellowship, and he would talk about giving up coffee and chocolate and cigarettes in the AA meetings, and they all just used to turn on him like, this is not about that at all. And he would just keep doing it. He was what a character. I recommend. He's got speakers on speaker tapes on.
And that was Bob Bell. That was his name.
Bob Earl. Bob E. Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of like that, though, that he stuck to his guns. I'm kind of the same way. I get people all the time that want to give me crap about being an atheist. I mean, the way they talk, that's Del. He's an atheist. It's like I'm some like scary person or something. Yeah. So I mean, so I stick to my.
Watch out.
And I've got my own, and I get in trouble for it sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go ahead and we'll start. It's been like 45, 50 minutes, man. This has gone by pretty fast here. What I would like to usually end to interview on, what I usually do is, what kind of, for somebody out there that's listening to this that might be going through struggles, maybe some struggles that you've gone through at some point, I always ask for the person to kind of just, what are some of your suggestions, or what has worked for you to keep you grounded, to keep you motivated, and keep you moving forward in life to where you're at today?
Oh, big question. And I think For people that are really struggling on the, literally wanting to drink right now or pick up a substance, I would really encourage them to, for me, listening to tapes, recordings. I would listen to non-stop speaker tapes in AA or NA. If I was in that situation, and find meetings that resonate. Don't go to if you don't like that meeting, find another one and keep looking for something that will resonate, and you'll know it. Once you feel it, you'll hear it, you'll know this is exactly what I need to be, and let that spark come in. Like, it's there, just got to be willing to find it. Honesty, open-mindedness and willingness, they are the pure virtues we practice. And every day we just try again. And if you fuck it up, you start again. And then, it does get better over time. And don't think about the big picture. Just if you got to think about the next hour and just, I don't know, watch Netflix all day, so be it. So be it. The most important thing is to stay safe and alive, and to actually create your tomorrow. Like today, you're creating a better tomorrow, no matter how shit today is. For old timers, I would say be creative, get out there, get educated, learn how to use recovery, learn how to keep it alive, keep it going. And there's a lot of communities and a lot of material out there, and don't waste it.
Mm-hmm. Very good advice. Very good advice. Well, I want to thank you, Kay, for coming on with me today. And sharing your story and sharing a little bit of help and strength and hope out there to the people that are out there that I'm trying to connect with. And just be safe out there with this whole COVID thing. Once I sign off here, if you want to stay on just for a couple minutes there, I want to talk to you for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But I want to thank everybody out there for coming and listening to the show today, and being a part of this movement. I'm hoping a lot of us are getting involved with, and just looking at AA and recovery, and just recovery in general, and realizing that there's so many different perspectives of how we can recover and do this, and how we need to be supportive of each other. Again, be safe out there with the COVID. If you're recovering from it right now, speedy recovery to you. I love everybody out there. Be safe. Peace. All right. Well, Kate, thank you so much.
That went quick.
Yeah, it's already 5 o'clock. At least 5 o'clock here anyway.
Yeah.
So what's your plan?
Cafe.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's your plans today?
Yeah, I go and have brunch. It's 10 a.m. here now. So I've been saving up for a nice brunch at my favorite cafe. I live just near the beach, so yeah, I'll be doing it. Not.
I don't want to hear that. What's the weather like?
All right.
I'm in Duluth, Minnesota. We went from 65 yesterday down to 35 today, and we're supposed to, and that's degrees, not Celsius, Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to get like 3 to 5 inches of snow over the next 2 days. So, I mean, you're rubbing it in a little bit here now, Kate.
Well, that's why people come down here. If they come down for the beaches and the weather. And so what's fun for you these days? What's sober fun? My question for you.
There's not a lot going on because of the whole COVID thing. I mean, I used to love to go into the sporting events and concerts and festivals, and I went to a movie last weekend over Halloween weekend, which was fun, but there's just not a lot of stuff going on. So I do a lot of the podcasting. I do a lot of research with that. I try to take in new movies, or I look on YouTube for movies I haven't seen that are supposedly interesting and good. And so I go and watch it. Like today, I watched Snowden today about the guy who, and it was good. So now I'm on a Snowden kick. Like I'm watching everything about that and the documentaries on him and him talking, and one of my favorite guys what show is it? This Week Tonight. I'm trying trying to think of the comedian's name. He was on The Daily Show. He's English. I can't remember what his name is. But he did an interview. Oh, John Oliver. He did an interview where he went over to Russia to have an interview with Snowden. And he didn't think he was going to show because he was like 15 minutes late, and then he showed up. And so it was him and Snowden having an interview. And the guy he's very interesting to me, very smart, very intelligent individual. And I like him standing up to corruption and standing up to people being violated, like right now. I mean, according to I've watched and what I've seen so far, is they could be watching me through every single webcam I have, and they don't need permission for it. And that's wrong. It's totally wrong. We have the right to our privacies and our private lives. So mainly now, if I'm going to be home, I read books and educate myself. It's all about educating. I watch a lot of documentaries. Lots of documentaries. Watch a lot of stuff on atheism. So that way, if I have a Christian apologist or a Christian who wants to debate me and wants to go after me about things, I've got so many answers to give back to them that are based on facts.
Yeah.
They can't stand that. So
Ricky Gervais would be one of your people, yeah?
Love him.
What's his name? Ricky Gervais?
Yeah, Ricky Gervais. And then Stephen Fry is another one of my guys. That Christopher Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens is a god to me. He was kind of an asshole. He was kind of a narcissistic prick, Christopher Hitchens was. But boy, was he educated. And you tried to call him on something, he had, the facts. And it was hard to dispute it when the only comment you can come back with is because the Bible tells me so. Well, that's not going to really cut it, So, well, in the future, I would like to touch base with you in a few months and kind of see where you're at, because this intellectual, like you said, intellectual conversation, maybe we'll get even the next episode, maybe we'll get even a little bit deeper. We'll pick a subject and really have some intellectual conversation on it, because I think it would really be a good time. But other than that, I'm going to get you. Where
sorry, I was just going to ask, do your viewers or listeners, do they type in questions for you, or things they want to hear about this? I'd be interested in what people want to hear more about.
Yeah, so they'll send to my email address, the recoveryatheist@gmail. I always advertise that. They'll find me on Facebook, and I have a group on there called the Recovery Atheist group on Facebook. So they'll find me on there and they'll send me messages. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of doing my live feed through Facebook, and they'll comment as I'm talking live. I do all my podcasts are done live through Facebook first. I let that sit out and people to marinate on the unedited version. And then I take the audio from that, edit it, put it up onto, Buzzsprout, which puts it out to, I'm on 9 different platforms now. And then I take the video and I edit the video. I delete the unedited video, put the edited video onto YouTube, and then share that. So that way I got people going to my YouTube channel as well, if they want to subscribe, if they want to watch the other videos I have. So it's been blowing up. I started with
You're a busy man.
I am. I started with a few people, and now it's, every day I'm getting, 50 downloads. Literally it's getting to the point where it's like people want more and more content, so I got to try to keep up with it. So that's why I'm advertising, hey, if you want to be interviewed, touch base with me, because I gotta, there's only so much content in my time that I have to be able to look it up and do the work, because I could spend 20 hours a week just investigating a few topics. That it makes it a lot easier to have someone come on with their own content. Hey again, podcast friends. Thanks for listening to the Recovery Atheist podcast. Today, again, the topic was an interview with Kate McNeil from Down Under. I want to thank everybody for subscribing and being a part of my YouTube channel and my podcast. You can take me wherever you go using Spotify and many other platforms on your Android and iPhone. Just take me on the go when you're on the go. Be safe out there.